little bit of a hard time. Can I give you some support, or would you like to talk things over? So you could have a situation where someone's troubled, they're having difficulty, but if you know for a fact that you can't essentially shut them out or shut them down, another option is to connect with them in a polite manner, and ask them, if you can possibly give them some support, or do they need someone to listen to them, to talk things over. And sometimes these people can, if they're not too far gone, if they're not a complete sort of basket case, there's a number of people who they will respond to you because you're showing a degree of care and kindness and compassion to a degree. And if they're hurting, if they're suffering, even though they may be, what's the right word, unleashing on the people around them, if they have someone who shows a genuine concern for their welfare and recognises their pain and is prepared to give them a small degree of support in private when there's no one around, and they can maybe speak or ventilate what they need to talk about, there's a possibility that they might respond to you. But you will get occasions that no matter what you do, that person will not respond to you virtually whatsoever. So that number one principle, absolutely minimizing the contact, is usually works on a quite a reasonable degree. And if you approach the person, they don't respond to you, I mean, what options have you got from there? I mean, you can get a situation where you could have a manager, but that manager has a general manager or has a what would you call it? Say like an area administrator, and if that person is really over the top, really unstable, unbalanced, venting their poison on the people around them, you're within your rights to essentially report them in an anonymous manner to one of the big bosses in the organisation, because all of you are well aware that when you're working, say in a team, that the health and well-being, the welfare of the team is quite significant, because as soon as people start disputing and start fighting each other, then the performance of the team and the quality of the work is going to start to drop. And their customers and clients, if you've got a situation you're running a business and half your people wrangling and fighting each other, the clients are definitely going to notice over time, and the level of say confidence in the company is will be affected, because if the company members can't even work together as a team within a particular fraternity, any potential, any existing customers that they have, clients, are going to wonder what these people are doing. The level of maybe, say, trust, confidence in these people is going to drop, because they can't even, they're there to support the customer base, but they can't even get along with each other. So, you may have a situation where customers, they may frown, or they may feel that these people aren't competent, they can't work together, and whatnot. Their work performance might they may not be so fantastic on the phone, they don't connect with the clients so well, and they can easily, the clients are well within their right to move on and find another company to source their support and their products and whatnot. So when we look at this principle also in relation with karma, when you have very, very strong interpersonal karma with your immediate family, extended family, and your close friends, and the next level down will be the people that you work with, people in business, the people that you're networking with, and it just doesn't happen by chance that you are in this particular zone, with these people at work. There's going to be some kind of karmic connection on some level, Because karma repeats itself as you move from life to life. So if you look at the dynamics, what are the major principles that you're forced into both a close, say, physical and professional connection with these people in a confined space. And when you look at it karmically, those kind of underlying factors, the major factors that you see, are going to be what you see in the last life, because as you're well aware, karma's like a circle. It repeats itself. It goes round and round and round, and the conditions, it could be even say like location, the people concerned, the kind of emotional dynamics. That's one of the things that you can easily spot when you're reflecting on karma and you look at the people within one's family, the people at work, within the extended fraternity, that you're repeating the relationships that you had with those people previously. And for good or for bad, you're going to be stuck with these guys for a certain period of time. But if you're in a situation where you may actually you might be quite happy with your work and this and that, but you've got one or two difficult people. But if you find that you've exhausted all your avenues, you're quite within your rights to leave and find employment, alternative employment with maybe another company base. So this the whole business with karma, karmic relationships between people. One of the a key principle is to learn and sort of understand what you're going through, because without emotion you can't feel karma working through you. We can see physical illness in one's own human body, which can be karmically related, and also, but to feel karma on a mind level, you've got to feel it emotionally, because your emotions, they make you aware. Your emotions give you a sense of where you're at with other human beings, the dynamics, how people feel about themselves, other people, and the world around them. So one's emotions are going to be a key principle which will inform you, at least in a rough sense, what kind of connection you had with that particular individual in the past. So you may have. Sometimes people may start to get very impatient or annoyed with these individuals, but you've still got to be careful in the sense that people are sort of well within their rights to draw boundaries, to draw limits with people who are a bit nuts or really sort of creating problems for the people within their circle. And sometimes people can respond to that kind of thing. If they're absolutely mad, if they're nuts, if they're psychologically unbalanced, they may not necessarily care less what they do. But these examples. I mean, I know one individual was very very competent, very fast, very bright, in the Perth vicinity. But that person call them an administrator, like a senior administrator. But their management style is very forceful, and it's a little bit aggressive, and it's almost like bullying. She's bullying her people, and this is a woman. So called. I mean, she's not an older person. She's probably young middle age. Very, very forceful management style. You do this kind of stuff. You play this kind of game out on the street, and you start. You got to be careful. You can make enemies. People can easily fix you if they really want to get you. They can easily have you taken care of. So you've got a situation where you've got this person in this. Say like a professional organisation with a very forceful style, almost like just constantly bullying, like telling people, speaking loudly, and her people just think she's completely nuts, and there's definitely psychologically there's something definitely not right with this individual. But you may be forced, but this person reacts very badly. So if you oppose them, if you start to complain or you argue or you sort of like oppose them, they get really quite upset and almost combative and paranoid. Even just one little thing which was taken the wrong way, and they won't speak to you for maybe about 12 months or so. But I thought to myself, that person, they should not be in that management position with that kind of attitude. When you tend to get more out of by putting too much force on people like that, and creating stress with your team, with your you've got a big team of people, with the staff. You make them unhappy, you stress them, and their work performance is going to be affected, and it may quite well be impaired because your people they get unhappy, dissatisfied. The work environment, it's not a pleasant situation to be in. This person's just constantly creating dramas, from one day to the next. Maybe they feel they're so incredibly important, or they may be worried about the boss, the regional boss who's in their offices in Perth, sort of watching over their shoulder. But but even if you're a person in that position, which is a lot of responsibility, the workload's quite high. It's not for the faint-hearted. You've got to be, absolute minimum. You've got to be at least the degree level plus, at least, to cope with a position like that. Because I could see quite clearly what's involved, and they're just on the go all the time. They're just working constantly, from start to from the start of one shift to the finish. But when you even if you're like for a manager, you're like a senior boss in that kind of fraternity, it actually pays to be polite to people. You can be firm when you need to be, but just by being polite, and just having human respect. Not disrespecting people, not being rude to people, not being overly arrogant, and whatnot. People, you'll tend to get far better results with people with that. When you treat them in that manner. Nobody wants to be. The vast majority of the human population do not want to be disrespected. They do not want you to treat them like a dog and talk to them like a dog. So normal, like, just what would you call it? Say, like agreeable human interaction. Even if you're the big boss and things have to be done and this and that, you just speak to your people politely. If they don't get it the first time, you explain the situation, and then the person concerned may have to use maybe a little bit more forceful or find some kind of strategy to bring their people on board. But you'll find that your people in general, some people may take a disadvantage, but if you treat people the way you would treat oneself, you'll find that you'll get a high level of performance with the people that are around you, because once they start getting very unhappy, dissatisfied, they're not happy when they're at work. You can see quite clearly that it's even with you had the big boss, the big boss of that fraternity. You have their second level people, and you could see the level of unhappiness that she was creating in the minds of her her second level team, and it's completely unnecessary. It's really not based in emotional intelligence. And they may think that by bullying and being forceful, they will get things done. They will get the best out of people. But from what as soon as that person was planning to leave or has left already, their guys, their team, their people were just so much happier. They were smiling, friendly, and I thought that's the kind of working environment which is suitable, for people who essentially have to work for a living. You don't want to be fighting, bitching, arguing and trying to point score with one's work colleagues and the people that you're in the company with. That kind of game. It's what would you call it? It's a difficult game to play in the long run, and it really doesn't get good results. Not to say that the polite the polite approach. I definitely feel it has far more benefits than this aggressive sort of bullying kind of style, because they'll just end up hating you. They'll just think you're a complete what would you call, what's the right words? Just a maniac. You're just nuts. You're just like a the person's very smart, capable. They do a good job, this and that. But it's almost like a survival thing. They're worried about maybe the big bosses in Perth looking over their shoulder, so they increase the pressure on their junior people. But so with the boss of the fertility, it's almost like a survival kind of mechanism to make sure that their junior people do exactly what they're told, they do exactly what they need to do. But I think for the harmony and the happiness of the work environment, that kind of approach really doesn't work so well. And you make too many enemies. And these days, it's a very, very dangerous game to play. So when we look at family, so we have a situation where, with our human connections with other people, karmic relationships, we are going to be we're going to be made to engage and connect with specific individuals who are close to us, or will be physical or emotionally close to us in the long term. Whether it's for good or not so good, because you're going to be running a vast range of human emotions, and also these people have past karma as well. So you can have there was something which came up on YouTube. This is an extreme, and there was a family, and the father died of a major neurological disease, and mum was left with the two oldest sons at that time. They were young when the father died, and in the current time they were like probably at least 17, 18. But the younger one, he must have been absolutely psychotic. Murdered his mother with a sledgehammer, and and the mother was good. She was a good human being. She was doing her best, supporting her boys, maintaining the household. She was paralegal, so a professional position. And so why would your younger son do something just so monstrous as that? But unfortunately had mental health issues, this and that. But people can certainly have mental and psychiatric disturbances, but this kind of extreme, this really very, very violent, brutal, extreme situation where she's a good person. She never ever harmed her boys. She did her best to raise them. And there was numerous examples of her, supporting, caring for her boys and whatnot. And even then, you get the youngest who turns and behaves in that manner. And you may feel it's just karma can be completely unfair, and so this one can be a little bit confusing, because the boy was a little bit disturbed when he was younger. It tended to get worse as he got older. But when we look at the situation, his mother didn't deserve to die whatsoever, and the way she treated her boys was very, very kind, very fair, very supportive. And your own child takes your life in that manner. It's just absolutely, just an absolute monster. So how do you understand this kind of extreme? So we have our general garden variety. Then you have this kind of sort of extreme situation. So unfortunately karma There's really no real. There's no real sort of what you call it, sort of like bad luck or I can't think of the right words. Like sort of bad luck scenarios when it comes to karma. If you get, you can be a good person all your life, but you can still get taken out in various circumstances, and you think, how can that possibly happen? You absolutely can't see anything in the current life. There's no basis whatsoever. It looks completely unfair, and you think to yourself, if you're a Buddhist person, you think karma is a very, very what's the right word? Like ruthless process. All of us have got the two ends of the stick. We have our good karma, bad karma, neutral. It's all very nice when things are going well, but if things are very unpleasant or essentially extreme and violent, karma essentially is largely responsible. When you're looking at major life events, virtually nothing happens by accident. So karma is action. If I walk down the path and I stub my toe, it's still karmic action. It's still physical action through the body. The other two through the speech and mind. So every move you make. So, but in essence, when you look at sort of much more, say, milder situations within family where you could have interpersonal conflicts and differences, you essentially, it's almost like being forced, or you're born into that situation where these emotions are going to be played out, and you're going to feel the dynamics, you're going to feel the connections with the family members around you. And in essence, like karma is there to essentially like to teach you and to virtually like make you understand the forces and the conditions at play. So it can be absolutely, completely unfair, completely brutal, but the way the karma operates, because it works on causal law, and these laws which function within the minds of human beings and function on the level of this universe are incredibly precise. The forces and energies. There's nothing haphazard. Very, 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 very accurate in relation to time and place. But in essence, that people. I can't think of the right words. It's not like you. It's like if you look at an extreme language, like you get what you deserve. So whether it was the mum losing her life in a very violent manner, or that you just cannot get along with one's father for like 20, 30, 40 years, and the only time you reconcile is when the father is actually dying. He's on his deathbed. You fly from Australia to the UK to try to reconcile, because previously, he just was, he wouldn't speak to you, wouldn't connect, this and that, and he's got to be on his deathbed before he'll actually talk to you. So, you get these kind of scenarios within the family dynamics. But one of the key things, just to say like a last point, is you've got to remember, no matter what is actually happening, can be good, can be bad, can be neutral, could be 1,001 things, you've got to keep karma in mind, because karma, it's working through your physical body, it's working through you emotionally, and every single move you make has a karmic potential. So one has to be quite careful the way you live one's life. Even if you're surrounded by clowns and foolish people, you still have to keep your head. If you're a Buddhist person, you still have to keep karma in mind. You're there, with these people for a reason. Or you could be in a family situation where there's incredible rivalry between the brothers and sisters, which goes on for 20 to 30 years. So, but that key principle to keep karma in mind, regardless of the circumstances, because the karma by according with karmic law, and just having that underlying awareness when you have to connect, or you are forced to connect with the people around you, that it helps to protect you and keep you safe, and it helps to stop the silly people around you from basically getting themselves into situations which have very, very serious consequences. Because you can be, what's the word? You can be quite a very, very strong-minded person. You can stand up, and you're quite within your right to set boundaries and limits with people. But you need to understand that you've got a connection with that person, and you're going to be stuck with them for maybe a certain period of time, as long as you work in that profession. And the connection between you and that individual, difficult individual, will not be broken over time, will not be broken essentially over multiple lifetimes. So there are ways, by disconnecting, that principle of disconnecting and not engaging that individual, you actually weaken the relationship karma between you. So the longer you keep them away from you, you keep them out of your face, out of your life, you actually weaken that karmic potential between you. And it's quite a good approach to follow, but it's not foolproof. And you may need other principles in up one's sleeve in order to deal with the people around you who aren't necessarily as aware, or maybe maybe who don't have the awareness, or maybe the moral integrity and the good manners and kindness that you may have oneself. So, number 2. Dear Venerable Ajahn, you asked for any topics for your Dhamma talk this morning, and here we have a couple of suggestions. We'll talk about generosity, one of the 6 recollections within our Buddhist tradition, and Chaganusati. So an essential prerequisite to meditation and the practice in general. So with the lay fraternity, what's usually encouraged is within the threefold training, the training of oneself as a Buddhist person, is the generosity and the keeping of the 5 precepts and the development of say meditation and insight, which also incorporates maybe so like learning of sutras, the reading of Buddhist publications and different books and articles, specialized articles, according to your tastes. And so, why do we need that principle of why is that principle of generosity there, right at the start? Like, so it's the number 1 point within a string of observances we follow as Buddhist practitioners, because the effect of generosity is to essentially reduce selfishness and ego, self-centeredness, and it helps to by being generous with other people in, say, it could be in very, very tiny ways, small or large ways. It helps to open one's heart and extend oneself, maybe financially, materially, or even just with time and energy towards other people, because you'll find that very, 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 very selfish, egotistical and narcissistic people tend to be the most happy. No matter what kind of face they put on, no matter how pretentious they are, you will find that deep down they're quite unhappy as individuals. Once you get to know them over time, and that principle. So as we develop this principle of generosity, support, open-heartedness, it helps to. What's the right word? It helps you open one's heart and extend, feelings of kindness, compassion, naturally the generosity, sharing. This is quite strongly emphasised within Thai culture, especially. Going back in history, the Thais were, that was a very, very strong point with the way they would raise their children. They would raise their children to share and to be generous and to have kindness, within the family and within their circle of friends. And say, for example, in like Thailand, if somebody had something nice in the household, maybe if they had a nice couple of pack of biscuits, or they had a little bit of money and they were able to get something decent, maybe some could be something special from the shops or something, that when they came home they would just automatically share that with the other family members, because when you go to the feeling tone, it actually feels better. It feels better to share oneself or one's requisites or one's time, one's energy, or financial support to a limited degree with others. It feels much better to do that, and it's more conducive to your own personal happiness and joy and contentment of mind than it is to keeping like nice things and tasty things. And maybe you could have something like maybe you got the latest Apple iPhone or Samsung phone or something, and so you've got your old phone, spare phone, and you could, you actually feel, if you're maybe a greedy, possessive person, you might want to keep it to yourself, put it in the drawer, so maybe as a backup. But when you actually give it to one of maybe a family member or a close friend, you look very closely, and if you can feel a sense of sort of like happiness and joy. Karmically you've done something good, and you feel good about that. And these people who are very, very egocentric, very, very self-centered, you'll find the majority of them, they're quite happy, quite unhappy as human beings. So no matter how much stuff they've got, because these people are looking for happiness too, so no matter how much stuff they've got, no matter how good the quality of the stuff that they have, it could be absolutely anything on a material level, a nice home, sports cars, this and that deep down, they still will not necessarily like themselves, and they will not necessarily feel they are a good human being, because some of these what would you call them, say, some of these smart alecks who have this kind of I lost my train of thought. Have this kind of attitude, may feel that they're getting ahead, they're ahead of the game, they've got the edge on other people, but it's a really, really, really silly and foolish kind of mentality, because I absolutely guarantee you look at them closely, find the most selfish people selfish person and look at them really, really closely, and if you can't see it from a distance, just get them in conversation and talk about this and talk about that, and get the feeling tone. Get within about a foot, get within a foot or 2 foot of them. Just have a reasonable conversation and whatnot, and ask them how they're doing, and maybe ask them about their new sports car, their new home, and their sculptured gardens and all this kind of stuff, and get them to essentially express how they feel about their life, how they feel about their high-class possessions, because they may use these things. They could have, when they were very young, they could have been quite selfish, maybe narcissistic, egotistical. But some of these people, by looking for material acquisition, by getting lots of stuff and good quality stuff, they can increase their personal happiness. And you can do that up to a certain degree, but it's got a workable limit. The higher principle, the deeper principle, is instead of you trying to get as much as you can for oneself, that you should always make an effort to share and support other people to at least to a small degree. That you may not have a lot of time, a lot of financial independence, maybe physical energy, but you can help people in very, very small, it could be very small ways. And to give you an idea what the impact is, I'll give two examples of the power of generosity. You've heard me mention this before, but these two are just fantastic. There was a woman who lived on the North Shore in Sydney, and she was at the time she was unmarried. I don't even think she was even partnered previously, but she had a massive home on the North Shore, beautiful home, sculptured gardens, big long driveway, and I think she had 2 cars. She had like a saloon, and she had a sports car. It sounds like there wasn't even a husband on the scene at any time, but very financially, very well educated and financially successful. And she got older, she retired, and there was a family next door. So they're well-to-do. Anyone who lives in the North Shore area, they're minimum middle class to upper class. They're the only people who really can afford to live there unless you win lotto or something like that. But the woman next door, the mother, who had, I think she had at least 3 children, was married, her husband was a professional. She was, I don't know what her, if she had an educational qualification at the time, possibly maybe before the children come along, but smart cookie. But what happened was every single morning, because the older woman next door, the wealthy lady, had severe arthritis and pain, right through, pain top to bottom. She could still walk a little bit, not much. And she would take her bread and her milk and her paper up her long driveway to her doorway and ring the bell and walk away. And she did that for a number of years because she knew the older lady was was physically incapacitated to a degree. I mean, there's just no way she would be able to actually get back up that driveway if what's the right word? If she had to like pick up her stuff and head back. So and then it was several years later that senior lady, she passed away. She had absolutely no she had no children, she had no extended family to speak of that I know of, and she left that massive property, that high-class property worth, at that time, this is a number of years ago, and I think it was worth at least $4.5 million. It'd be worth a lot more now. And she bequeathed that whole property to the mum who was living next door with her family, just on that principle of being kind enough to take her milk, her bread, and her paper up her driveway and place it down on her front door, ring the bell and walk away. That was enough for her to bequeath that massive property. Another example was it was Bill Gates. Bill Gates was going to I've mentioned this one before. Was going to a major seminar. It was a business, like a very, very big tech business seminar with all the top class managers, engineers within the Apple fraternity, and he was driving his vehicle. He didn't have a chauffeur, and he had to drive from one major city to another. But he had to drive through the countryside. So he thought, well, I'll make it an opportunity to drive through the countryside and drive through the farmland and smell the fresh air and look at the cows and the trees and the forest, and just get some time out and just make it a nice little trip instead of sort of like taking a plane, with maybe business class. And the car, he had problems with the carburetor on the vehicle, with the fuel supply, and the car eventually he had to stop because he could smell the petrol, and one of the sensors went off on inside the vehicle. It was a good quality vehicle, and he was stuck there. So he put the bonnet up. He just didn't know where to start. Very few people are experienced with carburation or even fuel injection. And one of the locals farmers was moving a couple of bales of large straw bales from one end of the property to the other. And then Bill Gates flagged him down and he said, "Look, my friend," he said, "I've got problems with my vehicle." He said, "I can't, the vehicle's conked out, I can't get it started. It looked like there's a little bit of there's a problem maybe with the fuel pump and whatnot." So something not beyond a decent handy person can cope with this kind of stuff. But Bill Gates, he's not. He didn't have the tools, no toolbox. He's not educated in this area. And the farmer, actually had his full toolbox on the back of the tractor because he's moving around between properties. He's doing all sorts of different things. He's maintaining stuff. Had a full toolbox on the back of the tractor. He tightened one of the fuel lines up. There's a small problem with the float with the carburetor. It was in the early days. And got the vehicle started and got him on his way. And what Bill Gates did was he took down the gentleman's number plate, so the number plate of the tractor, and his full name, and he knew the location, the GPS location where they were, and he spoke to a friend of his who was a professional banker, and he found out exactly where he was, where he was living, his premises with his family, and his friend, the banker, said that the gentleman, they were still in debt. They had a mortgage for I think the next 20 years. They had a couple of loans and this and that, and whatnot, because he was privy to that kind of information. He was the manager, of a bank. So they got the internet access, the computer access. And what he did was he paid off his house loan, the loan for the farm, completely. He paid off any outstanding loans on the equipment that he had, and I think he put maybe a couple of thousand in the bank, because Bill Gates is a very, very wealthy person, and just for a local farmer, this shows you the power of good karma coming back in full force. It's like 100%, 99, 100%. You're getting the sweetness all in one hit. Your what would you call it? Your sweet slice of top class cheesecake in one hit. And so just for that local farmer to spend 20 minutes with Bill Gates, just basically set him up for life. Financially, just wiped his debt. Made the mortgage, small debts on the property, all machinery, all this, and so you see the extreme. You see how far when you're talking about good karma, how far it can take you, and you can look at bad karma and you can see how far it can take you. So you can be dealing with very, very subtle things that you hardly even notice, to very, very extreme experiences. Say with say human interaction. So that will, that's like the power of generosity. And Our Lady's the most some people may think that they're what's the right words, that they're not quite right. They're so generous. They're so incredibly generous with almost everyone, that some people may feel that this person's not right. It's like they're overly generous. They're overly supportive and kind. But these, I can picture these particular individuals, and they are some of the happiest people. They would be the happiest people in our monastery. But the thing is, it is certainly, the generosity principle is definitely one worth cultivating. But the thing is, all of us have personal limits. You have limits on time and energy, and on your finance and your physical requisites. You may not be able to. You may have, like, set up, for example, you've got one of these nice, say, like steam cleaners, where you can steam clean, like driveways and concrete and tiles and all this. But you don't, you can't necessarily give that to every single person who approaches these. I mean, my father. I mean, you know, he looked after his own tools. He's quite careful with tools, but unfortunately, he borrowed the water jet spray from the boss who was running the estate. But my father, even though he's quite tidy and clean as an individual, he didn't spray the unit down completely when he finished. So, you know, I mean, I think maybe my father just didn't think about it. He's just not, possibly he just didn't think about it. But he didn't spray the unit down completely. And then his residential boss, who's managing that security estate, the housing security estate where my mother used to live, was really ticked off. And he said, "Charlie," he said, "if you return my equipment in that manner," he said, "I will never lend you anything ever again." And my father's not stupid. He learned very, very quick, and he made it a point. He made it a point later. There's an opportunity to help that gentleman, the boss who was running the facility, and he just extended himself immediately to settle the scales. So the residential boss helped him out with the spray jet cleaner, and then my father saw an opportunity and just helped him immediately to show what's the right word, to reciprocate the support and generosity, and to reconcile and get them back on good terms, because you don't want a situation where people they do the wrong thing by you, they cheat you, they rip you off. You know, if a person, to give you an idea, I mean, I had a situation where I was knocking around with a young guy when I was young, and he had a new motorcycle, but he didn't have a rack for the motorcycle. And unfortunately, he was a reasonably smart guy, but he was a heavy cannabis smoker every day. But you do this every day, you're going to start to go psychotic. You're going to start to go loopy over time, depending on what kind of person you are. And he told another guy that we knew, who was a fairly decent guy, that he told him that he would not give me the money for that rack. And I said, "You've got to be joking." I said, "What, Paul won't give me?" I said, gave him the motorcycle rack. It was a good quality rack with a bag in trust. And I said, "Just give me just give me the money when you've got the money." And he told a third person that he wouldn't give me the money at all. And this is what happens with drug users. It starts to sort of mess with your brain. And I said, "You've got to be joking." And he insisted. He said, "No." He said, "Look." He said, "Phil, he's not going to give you the money for that rack." He told me himself, and I couldn't believe it. I thought we were on good terms, and I rang his mother and I explained the situation, and I said, "David told me that Paul wouldn't, he said Paul wouldn't repay me for the rack. I gave him the rack in trust, this and that." And I said, "Look, if he doesn't come round with the money in the next 7 days," I said, "I'm coming round to the house with the police." And because he's a drug user, and because he's got a stash of drugs in his little hobbit house at the back of his mum's property, he was there the following day with the money. But I saw him again later, and I said, "Look, there's some work, because I don't turn against people completely unless they really, really burn me badly." I said, "Look, he was unemployed at the time. He just lost his job with Lysards." I said, "There's work running at the local employment engineering agency." I said, "You should be able to get work quite quick." But his mind just turned against me. He didn't want to speak to me, and he just turned. After we finished the conversation, he just turned away and walked away. And it was like his attitude was, he just didn't want to know me. But this is coming from the mind of a drug user. So under normal circumstances, he would have been fine. But anyone who uses cannabis long term, and the heavy drugs that you're well aware of, they're going to be psychologically and emotionally compromised, and they will turn on you. They will rip you. They will steal from you. They'll take you. They'll rip the parents $5,000-$10,000 and whatnot. So, the generosity principle, the kindness principle. What are you going to do if people mistreat you? You can they may do the wrong thing, the wrong thing by you. Once, if they don't reconcile, if they don't make allowances or make grievances with you to compensate. They say they could have cheated you, ripped you off, this and that, and if you know, the way I think is if they're not prepared to, they rip you off, they cheat you, they borrow money, don't pay it back. If they don't reconcile with you on almost any level, or don't even make an effort to balance the scales, then you're quite within that your rights to disconnect with that person, because they may develop a habit where they just prey. They prey on the kindness of other human beings. So by what's the right words? Choice of better words. By disconnecting them, by disconnecting your friendship, your support, essentially you sort of like you teach them a lesson. They need to be made. You're making them aware that there are repercussions. So if they cheat and take advantage of others, that they are going to be rejected, they're going to be cut off, and they will lose, say, like a decent friend. And you're quite within your rights to do that. Some of these people, they think they're very smart, they're very cunning, they can get the edge on other people, but when people break, when other people break the friendship, break the connection, and whatnot, then if they've got any brains, they will start to wake up over time, because that kind of approach, you may get gains in the short term, but you do this for an extended period, like over 10 years, you get a very bad reputation. You have very few friends. People don't trust you, and karmically, all the misdeeds and all the bad stuff that you've been up to, it's going to come back on you, and you're going to have to pay a price for that, because no one gets away with anything. So it's all that same principle. What goes around comes around. And you'll find as well that with the generosity principle, you'll have more. It increases your happiness, your joy, and your mental energy, and that mental energy will increase the quality and the depth of your samadhi. So even in our monastery, I mean, my meditation is reasonable, but I'm reasonably happy most of the time. But the most miserable monks in our monastery are the ones who are the most selfish. They're the most unhappy guys, and they're smart. They're smart people, but they're not smart enough to realise there's many advantages in helping and supporting the people around you. So why read suttas? So why would we bother reading the Buddha's sutras? So as you know, when the Buddha was alive, he taught volumes and volumes of materials to his main disciples, both monastic and lay. They were incorporated in that huge body of teachings within the Tipitaka. So when the Buddha was alive, the local dialect was Magadhese, and the Pali language, which is the derivative, which is derived from Magadhese, that is the closest language. What would you call it? A simulation that you can get. It's the closest dialectical language to Magadhese. So this is why you see the Buddha Sutras in Pali, not Magadhese, because it's like a I don't know the fine detail. So people can look into it if they're interested in this kind of stuff. But so the original sutras were in Pali. We have them translated into English. I mean, why bother? Why bother reading the Buddha's teaching? One of the key principles is that you need to know the core teachings, and you really need to know them in a minimum level of detail. And the reason is because those sutras are very, very accurate and they're very, very precise. And many of the sutras are a little bit general in nature. Some are very, very precise. But you're looking at like essential detail. You know, you're looking at the absolute. I can't think of the right words. The essential detail of what the Buddha taught, that what you need to actually practice this path. And the Buddha's the sutta translation. Most of the sutta's translations are done by the best scholars that we know of, and with the teaching, it's as close as you can get to what the Buddha actually stated. So it comes to it all. Essentially, it's by memory, by rote. But you had very, very very smart people with incredible with memory power, with the recitation and recording of what the Buddha taught at that time when he was alive. Because human beings can be quite deluded. They can have 101 views and opinions, and if you don't have the Buddhist framework with those very clear, articulate, precise teachings, then human beings can formulate almost anything they want. They can invent and create almost anything they want. If the Buddha hadn't laid down that body of teachings, human beings are definitely capable of creating something that supposedly the Buddha taught, which is completely false, nonsensical, maybe outrageous. It's when you've got teachings which are that precise and which are based in reality. I wouldn't call myself a scholar by any degree, but there's absolutely no aspect. There's not one line in the Tipitakas that you could propose to me and basically refute and say this is not true, this is false, this is not like in line with the reality of say human existence or the existence of any being. It's just not possible. The Buddhist sutras essentially are foolproof. Just I'm supposed to 8:30, 9:30. No, I've gone 10 minutes over. If you guys want to walk meditation, you're okay. All right, so I'll wrap this up. So in essence, what are we looking at? 9:30, 10:30. Supposed to be 9:30. All right, yeah, so we've got another sitting walking meditation till 10:30. So I'll keep this one a little bit short. But you guys can walk and sit as you please. That principle that human beings have the capability of creating almost anything, and you see how wild some of these cults, some of these religious groups, how charismatic and how manipulative the teachers in their particular sect or their particular tradition are. So if you don't have the supreme teacher with a full set, a full conglomerate of clear, articulate teachings to guide human beings, human beings will guide themselves with whatever takes their fancy and with whatever they think and feel is correct. So Ajahn Brahmali is very, and especially Ajahn Brahmali, Ajahn Sujato are very, very sharp and very articulate with their sutra exposition. And even there's virtually even in what would you call, even in discussion, you're just not going to defeat them at all. You will not be able to defeat them in relation with the teachings of Buddha Dhamma on absolutely any point whatsoever at virtually any time. When you have teachings of that caliber, And because those teachings need to endure over centuries and centuries, and with all the major traditions, all the essential teachings are exactly the same. You will get slight variations and additions in Mahayana, Tibetan tradition, but the essential teachings are all exactly the same, right across the board, no matter whether it's Burma, Nepal, Bhutan, say even from the Chinese Tipitaka. Because if you leave human beings to their own devices, they are capable of almost anything. If you didn't, within human society, if you didn't have normal human moral guidelines in our local communities, if there was no sense of morality in our local communities where we live, there would be absolute mayhem. Virtually almost anything goes. If you didn't have laws, regulations, and the police to essentially what do they call it, to support and reinforce local law, human beings are capable of absolutely anything. Okay, it's all good. Okay, so we'll just keep going. We'll keep going till we've got to go till 9:30, 10. Okay, 10:30. We walk and sit till 10:30, and then we've got to pack and tidy cottages and clean up and do end of retreat checklist. So we'll keep going for another roughly about 45 minutes.